Hey guys, tonight we begin with something gritty, grand, and absolutely unforgiving. Life in the Roman Empire. Not as a senator, not as an emperor, no golden laurel crown, no marble baths. Tonight you're not Julius Caesar, you're just you. Dropped unprepared into a world of sandals, sewage, and state-sponsored crucifixion. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here, and let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You open your eyes to the sounds of yelling, chickens, and a baby crying somewhere down the hall. Congratulations. You've just woken up in a Roman insula, the ancient version of an apartment building. Think of it as a multi-story fire trap held together by dust, prayer, and questionable optimism. Your room is the size of a closet and smells like one too, but with more mildew. The ceiling is low, the walls are damp, and there's no such thing as soundproofing. You can hear your neighbor snoring, arguing with his wife, and not arguing with his wife. The mattress is straw-stuffed, itchy, and suspiciously lumpy. You share it with several generations of lice. There's a single, narrow slit in the wall where air, pigeons, and regret drift in. That's your window. You don't open it, it's already open. And by open, I mean a hole. Sunlight creeps through, not gently but like a spotlight in a police lineup. You pull your wool blanket over your head, but it doesn't help. It's damp, it's always damp. It smells like ancient wet dog and existential dread. Your tunic is stiff with yesterday's sweat and possibly some of someone else's. You don't own much, a cup, a clay oil lamp, and a comb missing half its teeth. There's a chamber pot in the corner. It's full, again. You'll carry it downstairs later, praying not to trip and become both the victim and the cleanup crew. If the fire didn't spread overnight, you're lucky. Roman insulae were famous for catching fire at the drop of a spark. There are no fire escapes, no extinguishers, just buckets and panic. You can hear a street vendor below already yelling about fresh figs, while another screams about olives that are neither fresh nor plural. A centurion barks orders 2 streets away. Someone somewhere is already bleeding. The air is thick. With what? Uncertainty, smoke, dust, life, and possibly lead fumes, courtesy of Rome's elite plumbing system. Historians still argue whether Roman lead pipes caused mass cognitive decline, but judging by your headache and the building quality, the answer might be yes. You sit up. Stretch. Your back cracks like a dropped breadstick. You're sore, hungry, itchy, and anxious. You are not a hero in this story. You're just trying not to fall down the stairs before noon. And the stairs, they groan, they lean, they hate you. They're steep, splintery, and one good sneeze away from collapse. If your upstairs neighbor drops a pot of oil, and they will, you'll get both the contents and the consequences. Slipping, sliding, crashing into history. By the time you reach the bottom floor, you've avoided 3 rats, 2 puddles, and 1 possibly dead rooster. The courtyard stinks of unwashed bodies and dreams deferred. A cat gives you the side eye. Even it looks better rested. You step outside. The sun hits you like a slap made of molten gold. The day has begun, whether you like it or not. Section 2. Now that you've made it out of your sweltering tenement and haven't yet been trampled by an ox cart, it's time to address the second most pressing matter of the morning, your bladder. There is no toilet in your apartment. Of course not. That's a luxury reserved for people who can afford marble. You, meanwhile, are marching through Rome with a half-full chamber pot, modesty hanging on by a thread, headed toward the nearest latrina, and calling it a bathroom is giving it more credit than it deserves. It's more of a social club for strangers who don't mind making eye contact while squatting. You arrive to find a long, worn stone bench with holes carved into it. Yes, holes, plural. Side by side, no stalls, no dividers. Just humanity on display, privacy, not a concept. Your only buffer is a slight nod from the guy next to you chewing olives like this is his favorite part of the day. You look away, which makes it worse, because across from you, yes, across, someone is staring right back. It's less of a restroom and more of a staring contest you never agreed to join. Beneath the bench, a narrow gutter of running water flows. In theory, it whisks away the waste. In practice, it sort of gurgles, sputters, and mostly pretends to help. The stench, a rich bouquet of rot, mildew, sweat, and civic neglect. Then comes the tussorium, a communal sponge on a stick. It rests in a jar of vinegar or brine or something that used to be vinegar until it met the public. You're meant to rinse it before and after use. You do neither. Instead, you hold it with the kind of reverence one usually reserves for radioactive material. This is hygiene in Rome. Historians still argue whether the Tessorium was genuinely effective or just a slow-motion health hazard. Either way you use it, because the alternative is, well, nothing, and nothing is not an option in this line of civilization. You leave the bench quickly, not because you're done, but because someone is waiting behind you, arms crossed, foot tapping. There's a system, an etiquette. None of it includes actual cleanliness. Next comes hand-washing. You approach the communal basin, which has seen more fingers than a breadline and smells like everything it's touched. There's no soap, just a vague rinse and a silent plea to the gods. Back outside, the sun is climbing, the city is alive. And by alive, we mean loud. Vendors holler, beggars mumble, dogs bark. A goat bleats angrily. Why is there a goat? You don't know, no one knows. The goat has seniority. Children dart past with loaves of bread and mischief. A man pushes a cart filled with fish parts and ambition. You almost get hit by a woman carrying a full amphora on her head like it's a fashionable hat. You remember you haven't eaten, and you're not hopeful. But food can wait, your stomach can whine. Your dignity, though, it needs time to recover. Because now you're walking back home, slightly damp, vaguely traumatized, and wondering how anyone survives this place without therapy. Therapy doesn't exist, just philosophy. And stoicism isn't helping when you've just shared a sponge with 20 strangers and a philosophical crisis. But you press on. That's what Romans do. Or at least, what the poor ones do while trying not to get run over or arrested for existing too boldly in public. You dodge a cart, you sidestep a puddle that may have once been wine, water, or both. A child sneezes near you, and you hold your breath, not from germ fear, but from the smell. You make it back to your alley. Your tenement leans just a little more than it did this morning. You climb the crooked stairs again, now carrying an empty chamber pot and a heavier soul. Welcome to your morning in Rome. You're 2 hours in. Your legs ache, your pride is bruised, and breakfast hasn't even begun. Section 3. So you've made it through the gauntlet of Roman bathroom culture, dodged a goat, avoided eye contact with a man holding grapes in a deeply unsettling way, and somehow returned to your room without stepping in something ancient and unspeakable. Now it's time for the most important meal of the day, unless you're Roman. In that case, it's just the first edible disappointment on your to-do list. Welcome to the irontaculum, a word that sounds fancier than the reality it describes. There is no fresh coffee, there are no eggs. No crispy bacon, just you, your worn tunic, and a rock-hard hunk of yesterday's bread that could double as a weapon in a tavern brawl. You pick it up. It has weight, it has edges, it has ambitions. This is panis rusticus, rustic bread, which is Latin for good luck chewing, made from coarse grain, baked hastily and seasoned lightly with thyme. It's as dense as a senator's ego and almost as digestible. If you're lucky, the vendor outside your building has olives. They're already swarming with flies. You buy 2, one is bitter. The other tastes like it has opinions. A neighbor offers you a smear of garum, Rome's favorite condiment. You accept. You shouldn't have. Garum is fermented fish sauce, made from the innards of fish aged in the sun until even the gods start looking away. It smells like betrayal and tastes like a dare. Still, it moistens the bread just enough that your jaw doesn't stage a rebellion. You bite, you chew, you regret, but at least it's food. Technically, to drink, posca, a sour mix of vinegar and water served warm and with judgment. Wine, but not the fun kind, the kind that says, I was once respectable and now I live in a cracked amphora behind a tavern. You sip, you try not to wince. Someone nearby pretends it's refreshing. You don't speak to them again. If you're rich, breakfast might include honey, cheese, fruit, or imported dates. You're not rich. You're chewing tree bark masquerading as nutrition while a lizard watches with pity. Historians still debate whether the Romans valued breakfast at all. Some suggest it was merely functional, a stopgap before work. Others think it was intentionally austere, to prove a point about Roman virtue or dental resilience. You sit by the window hole, watching the city stir. A cart of clay pots rattles by. Someone's yelling about fresh turnips. 2 boys argue over who stole whose sandals. One is barefoot, the other is winning. Your feet hurt already, even though your shoes are more suggestion than support. Just scraps of leather tied together with twine and prayer. They squeak when you walk, not from the leather, but from the faint sound of your dignity escaping. The bread finally disappears. You don't feel full, but the chewing has exhausted you. Your jaw clicks when you close it. Your stomach offers cautious optimism. You wipe your hands on your tunic. It doesn't help. A man across the street eats his breakfast squatting on a step, staring into nothing. You wonder if he's contemplating life or just trying to digest his meal without emotional damage. Both feel accurate. The air is getting warmer. The sun's beginning its slow roast of everything not currently in shade. You feel the heat rising off the paving stones. You already miss the cool, judgmental interior of your terrible room. But there's no time to dwell. Work is calling, or rather, not calling, just quietly waiting to crush your spine and your soul under the Roman definition of labor. You take one last sip of watered-down wine, now slightly warm, slightly metallic. It coats your mouth like the memory of disappointment. Breakfast is over. It wasn't satisfying, it wasn't enjoyable, but you survived it. Which, in ancient Rome, is the only real win you get before noon. Section 4. The sun is up, your belly is sort of full, and your shoes are tied, if you're lucky enough to own both shoes and string. That means it's time for the main event of your Roman day. Work. Now let's be clear, you don't have a career, you have a task. A job, a burden. It doesn't involve spreadsheets, standing desks, or office coffee machines. It involves sweat, it involves dust, and it almost definitely involves back pain. You step outside, and the street greets you like a slap to the face. Vendors are shouting, carts rumble past. A rooster has climbed onto a windowsill and is arguing with a child. You sidestep a puddle of something that may have once been a grape. You're a Roman laborer today. You might be a porter, carrying sacks of grain twice your weight across a sun-scorched forum. Or maybe a fuller's apprentice, standing ankle-deep in vats of urine to clean tunics with ammonia-rich foot-stomping. Yes. Ancient dry cleaning involved pee, and you thought your summer internship was rough. Historians still argue whether these jobs were paid decently or merely tolerated for the free fermentation experience. Either way, you're doing it, and you're not alone. Hundreds of workers swarming the city like sweaty ants with bills to pay. If you're one of the luckier sorts, maybe you've landed work as a scribe's runner. This involves sprinting across town in open-toed sandals with scrolls under your arm and directions barked at you in increasingly fast Latin. It's less courier and more human message in motion. Maybe you're a craftsman, hunched over a public workbench, chiseling letters into marble while tourists and pigeons judge your spacing, or a street vendor's assistant shouting about your figs, which aren't even yours. Either way, the pay is low, the sun is high, and the chance of dropping from heatstroke hovers around, probably. If you're female, congratulations, you work too. You grind grain, fetch water, prep meals, wash laundry by hand, and wrangle children while possibly weaving cloth with the speed of a caffeinated spider. There's no clocking in, because the sun is your time card. When it rises, you start. When it sets, you collapse. And don't forget your boss. He's not kind. He's not reasonable. He's a man who thinks eye contact is disrespectful and yelling is punctuation. He wears a tunic just like you, only cleaner, and he talks about discipline while sipping imported wine under an awning. Your tools are primitive, wooden plows, chipped hammers, baskets woven from hope. There's no safety equipment. No gloves, just your hands and the hope that they stay attached. You sweat through your tunic by mid-morning. The cloth sticks to your back like cling wrap. The dust of the street clings to your face, your arms, your dignity. You try not to drink too much water. Not because it's scarce, but because it's Roman water. Remember those beautiful aqueducts? Well, they carry lead-lined hope straight into your wooden cup. Your stomach turns, or maybe that's the garum from breakfast. Either way, you push forward. There are no breaks unless you call leaning on a wall and trying not to throw up a break. You watch a cartload of amphorae topple over, shattering across the stone. The driver shrugs. The guy sweeping the mess up is now having a very Roman day. By early afternoon, your feet feel like they've been roasted. The soles of your sandals have thinned to the width of regret. You find a sliver of shade behind a crumbling wall and squat there, panting like a dog and wondering if you should have been born in Gaul instead. Then someone shouts your name or something close to it, and it's back to the grind. You lift, you carry. You sweat, you endure, because in Rome, resilience isn't admirable, it's required. The guy next to you says something about a gladiator match tonight. You nod, but you know you won't go. You'll be too tired. Too sore. Too Roman. By the time the sun begins to drop, you're crusted in a thin layer of salt, dirt, and possibly pigeon droppings. But you're alive, which is more than the guy who fainted during bread delivery can say. You drag your aching body back through the streets. People bustle, the markets shout their final deals, the temples begin their evening chants. You hear music, you smell smoke, you feel everything and yet nothing at all. Work in ancient Rome isn't noble, it isn't fair, it's a daily negotiation with your spine, your dignity, and the heat. But you've made it through the day, almost. Dinner looms. And with it, new disappointments. Section 5. The sun has dipped just enough to make the shadows stretch like tired arms. You're trudging through a street that's less scenic Roman thoroughfare and more interactive obstacle course. Your destination? Anywhere that isn't here. But before you can get there, you have to navigate the full, unfiltered sensory overload that is the Roman street. Step carefully. Because what looks like a puddle may actually be a pothole, and what looks like solid ground might actually be the day's sewage taking the scenic route downhill. You pass under a wooden balcony leaking something that could be dishwater, or worse. In ancient Rome, people tossed their waste from windows with a shout, if they remembered to shout. You learn quickly to stick close to the wall, but not too close, rats, remember. Historians still argue whether Rome had any real sanitation strategy, and the general consensus is yes, but it involved hope and aqueducts and then just sort of gave up. The road beneath your feet is a chaotic mix of pounded stone, jagged chips and shoe-sabotaging ridges. Carts rattle by, pulled by mules who have seen too much and care too little. There are no traffic laws, just shouting and shoulder-checking. A merchant waves at you with one hand and holds a live chicken under his arm with the other. He's selling fish that smells like it missed its expiration date by about a decade. A group of toga-clad men argue loudly over what sounds like land rights or lunch plans, maybe both. Meanwhile, a beggar child runs between legs like a cat clutching a broken clay cup and aiming for pity. You'd give something if you had anything, instead you nod, which somehow feels more insulting than not acknowledging him at all. Then there's the noise. Rome doesn't hum, it roars, vendors yelling, children screaming, hammers pounding, livestock braying. It's like someone cranked the volume on humanity and then left the dial stuck. You pass a fountain, it's beautiful. From a distance. Up close, it's full of algae, bird feathers, and someone's sandal. Still, someone dips a jug in, still someone drinks. A guy in a tattered cloak mutters a prophecy to no one in particular. Another man sells roasted chestnuts and advice. You hear snatches of language from all corners of the empire, Greek, Latin, Egyptian, Gallic, anger. This is the empire's belly, loud, steaming, and never quite clean. You breathe through your mouth, which doesn't help. You cough. The man next to you nods like, same. And just as you're adjusting to the chaos, the garbage cart arrives, wooden, creaky, and somehow worse smelling than everything else. A man scoops refuse into it with a shovel that has clearly seen things. The stench is layered, sour milk, old fish, lost dreams, and yet, through it all, life flows. Children laugh, even barefoot in the muck. A woman sings as she washes clothes in a public basin, swatting flies like punctuation. A stray dog trots past with a sausage in its mouth, triumphant and unbothered. You envy him. He doesn't have to explain garum breath to anyone. You pass a shrine nestled between two stalls. A tiny marble statue with faded red paint and wilting flowers. Someone left a coin and a fig. You do the same. Not because you believe, but because it feels like something you're supposed to do. You keep walking. The Forum is not far. That's where the rich stroll, pretending the world is marble and not mud. You don't go there. You're not dressed for marble dreams. Instead, you take a left down an alley that smells strongly of pickled cabbage and mild violence. A chicken pecks your sandal. You do not retaliate. The chicken looks confident. By the time you reach your home, the street has quieted slightly. Or maybe you've just gone a little numb. Rome isn't a postcard, it's a full-contact city. And you've survived the worst of it, for now. Section 6, you're back in your alley. Congratulations. You've survived Roman street traffic, avoided being crushed by an ox cart, and outwitted a particularly aggressive cabbage vendor. But now you're parched, desperately. You need water. Sweet, clean, thirst-ending water, which is adorable because in ancient Rome, water is complicated. See, Rome is famous for its aqueducts, and rightly so. They're architectural marvels, arched wonders carrying fresh water from springs miles away. You've probably seen paintings, postcards, tourism ads featuring statues smiling at a gurgling fountain. But that's the highlight reel. You're in the blooper footage. First of all, you're not allowed to tap directly into an aqueduct. That's for the public fountains, and also for rich people with private pipe access and servants who clean the bird droppings off their marble basins. You, humble tenement dweller, get your water from one of many public spouts. And when I say public, I mean shared by a few dozen people, their dogs, and whatever wandered out of the sewer last night. You approach the nearest larkus, a small, square fountain set into a street corner. It trickles steadily. The stone is slick with algae, and a lizard is taking a nap on the edge. You nudge him politely aside. He hisses. You apologize. He leaves, probably judging you. You fill your clay jug slowly. The water smells faintly of minerals, and something else. Something mysterious. That would be the lead. See, the Roman water system used lead pipes, or fistulae, to move water through the city. Historians still argue whether the lead exposure was enough to cause empire-wide brain fog, but you definitely feel foggy. To be fair, the water itself starts out clean. It just takes a detour through Rome's scenic lead-lined plumbing and picks up a souvenir. Still, it's better than drinking from the Tiber. That would be suicide, or at the very least an express ticket to intestinal ruin. You take a sip. It's warm, not refreshing. But technically wet. A child next to you rinses his hands, then drinks directly from his fingers. You both share the look of people who know this is just what hydration means now. Sometimes the water's been standing for hours, other times it's rushing too fast and splashes up your nose. Once in a while someone drops a fish into it, for luck. Today there's just a floating leaf. You try not to think about where it came from. You pass a wealthier district on your way home, just to feel something. You glance through a gate and see a private courtyard with its own impluvium, a sunken marble pool catching rainwater. The water glistens. You swear it's cooler. Cleaner, probably guarded by muscled servants with perfect eyebrows. You turn back. You don't belong there. You return to your public spout, where the jug is heavy, your back aches, and the old man next to you keeps muttering about Jupiter being mad at the city's pigeons. Sometimes a water carrier passes you on the street, buckets balanced on a pole across his shoulders. He makes his rounds delivering water to those who can pay him not to stand in line. You envy him, not because he has money, but because his sandals have soles. Back at home, you pour the water into a chipped clay cup and set it on your table. The cup leaks slightly. You tilt your head and drink around the drip. There's a bug in it. You remove the bug. The bug returns. You sigh and drink it anyway. That's just calcium now. Rome has water, impressive water. But it's never truly clean, not unless you're rich, and you're not. You're standing barefoot, drinking leaded lukewarm swamp essence from a shared fountain that doubles as a bird bath. Still, you're hydrated. Technically, your mouth no longer feels like the inside of a gladiator's helmet. Your headache? Slightly less sharp. Tomorrow you'll do it all again. You'll stand in line. You'll dodge bees. You'll pray the lizard doesn't bite. And you'll sip from the fountain like it's divine, because it might be the only divine thing you'll get all day. Section 7, you're full of lead-tinged water and the kind of bread that could chip a tooth. Naturally, your body begins to protest. Not just in one place, everywhere. Your back is whispering mutiny. Your feet feel like someone filled your sandals with gravel. Your stomach, well, it's curious. Uneasy, maybe confused about what exactly it was supposed to digest from that breakfast. Still, you soldier on. Because in ancient Rome, pain is just part of the package. You don't complain, not out loud. Complaining is for the soft, the spoiled, or the soon-to-be unemployed. Your joints creak as you crouch to pick up a bundle of firewood. A sharp jolt shoots through your side. You pause, wince, and decide to walk it off, like every Roman before you who couldn't afford to rest without also risking starvation. Now, let's say something actually goes wrong, a sprain, a rash, or that suspicious lump under your arm. You don't have insurance. You have superstition and a neighborhood healer with a collection of herbs and opinions. You go see him. He's old, his hands are cracked like pottery, and he smells faintly of garlic and mildew. He greets you warmly, offers you a seat on a stool that's definitely been sat on by too many people, and begins your diagnosis. He touches your forehead, he mutters something about imbalanced humours, then he pulls out a reed pen, dips it in ink, and writes your name onto a wax tablet, upside down. For luck. Roman medicine is a fascinating mix of logic and mysticism with a side of guesswork. You're offered a powder made from crushed beetles and dried fig leaves. He mixes it into wine and tells you to drink it under the moon. You ask if that's required. He says the moon knows your liver better than you do. Historians still argue whether Roman medicine helped more than it harmed. Some techniques were surprisingly advanced, like cauterizing wounds or setting broken bones with splints and linen, others less so. For example, if your stomach hurts, they might prescribe a poultice of pigeon droppings and powdered rose petals. Apply it nightly, and don't forget to chant to Apollo while doing it. Apparently, healing is 60% ritual, 30% hope, and 10% correct identification of the ailment. Feeling anxious? That's probably spleen trouble. Or you've offended a household god. Either way, the cure involves incense, honey cakes, and maybe a brief apology to your kitchen shrine. If you're really unlucky, someone suggests bloodletting, which is exactly what it sounds like. They make a small cut, usually too large, and let your body balance itself by draining the bad blood. You faint halfway through. They say it's working. There's also trepanation, which is the ancient art of drilling a small hole in your skull to let the demons out. Don't worry, you're not at that stage yet. Probably. Your neighbor, the one with the limp, once had a boil lanced by a blacksmith using a heated nail. You try not to think about it while sipping your beetle wine. Pain in Rome is everywhere, common, quiet, and ignored. Everyone's got something, a limp. A cough, a rash they don't talk about. No one stops working because of it. You keep moving, you keep lifting, you keep selling figs or fetching water or hauling bricks, because stopping is for corpses. And even then the body gets no peace. There's a line for cremation, or a mass grave. Or if you're lucky, a family tomb with your name carved slightly wrong. You finish your wine potion, you thank the healer. He blesses you in the name of Asclepius, throws a handful of dried lavender into the air and charges you 3 bronze coins. You limp home, maybe your side still hurts. But now it hurts with purpose. In ancient Rome, that's the closest thing you're getting to healthcare. Section 8. Your side still aches, your knees sound like a creaky door, and you're not entirely sure if the pigeon-dropping poultice is helping or attracting more pigeons. But something else is bothering you. Your head, a dull, throbbing pressure behind your eyes, like your skull is attempting to make a dramatic exit. You need help. But not from the healer this time. You need a doctor, or at least what passes for one in ancient Rome. So, you shuffle to the medicus, the catch-all Roman term for anyone dabbling in medicine. He operates out of a small smoky room attached to a bathhouse, which is either convenient or deeply unsanitary. Inside, the air smells like mouldy basil and regret. There's a faint sizzling noise in the background, but you choose not to investigate it. The doctor greets you while mixing something in a bowl, probably not soup. He gestures to a wooden bench. You sit, it creaks ominously. He listens to your symptoms, nods slowly, and pulls out what looks like a dentist's toolkit curated by a blacksmith on a budget. There's a bronze scalpel, a probe, a pair of horrifying tweezers, and, ah yes, the infamous cauterizing iron. Shiny, unsettling. Warm. You tell him it's just a headache. He frowns, disappointed, like you've brought a hammer to a poetry reading. Still, he presses fingers against your temples, mutters something about bile and phlegm, and declares your soul is too warm. To fix this, he recommends a soothing remedy: crushed onions, vinegar, and a hymn to Minerva. You do all 3. The onions make you cry, the vinegar makes you gag, Minerva does not respond. Then comes the optional treatment. Optional in the Roman sense, meaning we're doing this now. He smears a paste of cow dung and date syrup onto your chest. You try not to flinch. He says it draws out excess heat. You say nothing because your dignity left 15 minutes ago. Roman doctors were trained using texts by Hippocrates and Galen, brilliant men who believed in balancing the four humours: blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. This theory led to some truly inventive treatments, like drinking mint wine for melancholy or stuffing garlic into wounds to scare away bad spirits. Historians still debate how effective these methods were, but one thing is clear: they were very confident about them. You lie back as the doctor offers one last remedy, a charm. It's a small amulet with symbols etched into it, supposedly sacred. He ties it around your neck and tells you not to remove it until your headache is gone, or until Jupiter gives you a sign. You nod solemnly. Jupiter is currently offering you silence and distant thunder. If you were bleeding or had a broken bone, things would be worse. They'd use linen thread to stitch you. No anesthesia, just grit, yelling, and a wooden stick to bite. Abscesses, they'd drain them with a hot knife. Teeth, they'd pull them with iron pliers that double as salad tongs on the weekend. And women? Oh, the joys of Roman gynecology. If you're giving birth, it's at home, with midwives, prayers, and a coin under the bed for good luck. There's no pain relief, just herbal tea and biting your knuckles. If the baby survives, you thank the gods. If you survive, everyone calls it a win. Back in the room, your head still throbs, but at least now it's tinged with garlic and cow. You pay the doctor 2 copper coins and leave with your amulet swinging gently. The breeze cools your sweaty face. You feel slightly better. Or maybe you're just relieved to be out of there. As you walk home, you pass a woman holding a baby with a fever. She's feeding it a mash of barley, honey, and whispered prayers. An old man sits outside his door with a bandaged leg, glaring at everyone. You realize everyone in this neighborhood is dealing with something: a rash, a cough, a superstition, a ghost. Because in Rome, illness is normal. It doesn't stop the day. You walk through it, around it, and with it. And if all else fails, there's always another paste, another chant, another cup of suspicious wine. Tonight you'll sleep with a headache, a necklace, and a faint smell of farmyard, and if Jupiter is kind, you won't wake up feeling worse. Section 9. Evening edges in over Rome like a dusty curtain, turning gold statues into shadows and market stalls into silhouettes. Your head still hums from the herbal ordeal, your sandals feel tighter somehow, and now it's time for dinner, or what passes for it. Let's set expectations right now. There is no feast, there are no wine-soaked orgies, no banquets with flaming peacock tongues. Those are for the elite, the toga-wrapped aristocracy lounging on couches while slaves peel grapes for sport. You're a working Roman? Which means your evening meal is less culinary adventure and more edible survival. You squat outside your home, balancing on a broken stool, watching as a neighbor stirs something grey in a cracked pot. That's pulse, a thick barley porridge. It's dinner for half the city. It looks like wet cement and smells like ambition gently lowered into resignation. You ladle some into a chipped bowl. It wobbles. It sticks. It doesn't jiggle. It resists. There's no meat. Not even fish. Maybe a chopped onion if someone was feeling generous. A single wilted herb floats in the middle like a shipwreck survivor. You sprinkle a few drops of garum on top. Yes, again, because garum is Rome's answer to flavour. It's still fermented fish intestines, and it still smells like defeat, but you've started to crave it, a kind of culinary Stockholm syndrome. You sip a bit of leftover posca, that delightful vinegar water cocktail. It tastes like the inside of a wine barrel that lost its way and was never found. A child walks by eating a fig. You want to be mad at him, but also you want the fig. You settle for a crust of day-old bread so hard it could be classified as a geological sample. Historians agree, Roman plebeian diets were functional, not flavorful. Cheap grains, legumes, and whatever vegetables didn't rot first. Protein was rare, fruit was seasonal, and sweets were myth, unless it was a festival day or you tripped and fell into a senator's kitchen. You watch your neighbors eat in silence. Someone coughs, someone else drops a bowl. No one speaks unless it's to pass a chunk of stale cheese. There's a weird piece in it. No performance. Just chewing, and the occasional crunch that shouldn't be there. You remember what the wealthy eat: boiled dormice, stuffed songbirds, dates soaked in wine. You try not to think about it. It's not just that you can't afford it, it's that imagining it makes your barley paste taste worse. You finish your meal. There's no dessert unless you count the feeling of not being hungry anymore. A dog noses around your feet, hoping for scraps. You toss it your last olive, it sniffs once, then walks away. Even the dog has standards. In a richer household, dinner ends with music, poetry, maybe a philosophical argument about fate. In yours, it ends with someone coughing and someone else asking if there's enough left over to do it again tomorrow. The answer is probably yes. Because the pot has more porridge, it always does, it never finishes. It just congeals. As the sky turns purple and torches flicker along the alleys, you wash your bowl with a bit of sand and a prayer. Then you sit still. Let your stomach settle. Listen to the city wind down, the faint clang of distant armor, the laugh of a drunk man, the soft sweep of a broom on stone. Dinner in ancient Rome doesn't nourish your soul. It doesn't inspire recipes or memoirs, but it keeps you going, and some nights, going is all you need. Section 10. The sky deepens, shifting from dusty lavender to something heavier, darker, like a velvet cloak pulled over the rooftops of Rome. You've survived another meal of barley and vinegar, and your body feels sluggish, like it's trying to digest both the food and your life choices. But there's one more thing before rest. Entertainment. You wander toward the Forum Boarium, not for the market, but for the noise, the laughter, the chaos. Rome never really sleeps, it just gets louder in new ways. Your neighbour mentioned a play being performed in a public square. You arrive to find a crude wooden stage and a cluster of people pressed together, sweaty and loud, all craning their necks for a glimpse of actors in masks the size of dinner plates. It's a comedy, allegedly. The main character is a scheming slave. The punchlines involve fart jokes, marriage contracts, and very pointed impressions of a certain unpopular magistrate. You don't laugh. Exactly. But you do exhale sharply through your nose at least twice, which is basically Roman approval. Behind you, someone hawks roasted chickpeas. The smell is better than the food. You buy a handful anyway. Half are burnt, the other half are pebbles in disguise. You crack a tooth and pretend it didn't happen. The crowd erupts in cheers as an actor trips over his own toga. It's unclear if it was scripted. No one cares. Next, a rumour spreads. Gladiators are training late at the Ludus Magnus, near the Colosseum. You follow the tide of bodies like flotsam caught in the current. Soon, you're at the edge of a sand-filled pit, watching shirtless men spar with wooden swords, sweat glistening, eyes locked. Some of them fight with fury, others with tired professionalism. They're slaves, mostly, or condemned men, or poor fools who thought glory was worth the bruises. You watch one swing hard, stumble, then get knocked down flat. The crowd goes quiet, then claps. Rome loves violence, but only when it's polished. You hear murmurs of tomorrow's arena match, lions. A condemned thief, maybe an imported leopard if the cart makes it in time. You nod politely. You're not going. You've seen enough blood in the butcher's stall. You drift further into the city's darker corners, where musicians play three-note songs on reed flutes and old men gamble with knucklebones. Someone tells a story about a ghost who haunts a broken aqueduct. You believe him, mostly because he's missing an eye and hasn't blinked since the story began. Then comes the sound of chariots. You turn down a long avenue toward the Circus Maximus, where drivers still race for fun even after sundown. The official races are over. This is more practice, more bravado. You stand behind a fence as two teams thunder past, red and blue banners streaming behind them. Dust flies, wheels rattle. A horse rears. A young charioteer leans too far, nearly tumbles, then rights himself to loud applause. Someone next to you mutters, "He won't last a year." You nod. He probably won't. Entertainment in Rome isn't elegant, it's not even always entertaining. But it's distracting, and that's enough. Some nights it's a poet reciting lines about lost love. Other nights it's a man juggling flaming torches near a sewer. And if all else fails, you can always sit on a warm step, stare at the stars, and listen to the city breathe. Tonight, you've done all three. Eventually, your legs protest. You yawn, your head pulses gently like a distant drumbeat, and so you head home. Because tomorrow comes fast, and Rome waits for no one, not even those who stayed to watch the last chariot race slide into the dark. Section 11. You're almost home when a shout cuts through the air. Not the joyful kind, the legal kind. Someone's being arrested again. Two lictors, officers of the law, march a man down the street with their iconic fasces, Bundles of sticks with an axe poking out like a passive-aggressive warning. The man is barefoot, bruised, and loudly denying he did anything wrong. No one listens. This is Rome's justice system, elegant on paper, chaotic in practice. The 12 tables lay down the law, but the enforcement, that's a coin toss and a favour from someone's cousin. You slow your steps like everyone else. Rome loves a public spectacle, but you don't stare too long. Eye contact makes you a witness. Being a witness means involvement, and involvement, trouble. They drag him toward the basilica, a government building that doubles as a courtroom and place to buy olives. Justice and commerce share space. Fitting, really. Inside, a magistrate sits on a raised platform flanked by scribes and men with scrolls. The defendant pleads his case, voice hoarse. The magistrate nods, scribbles something, and then shrugs. That's not justice, that's Tuesday. Historians still argue whether Roman law was fair to the poor. Spoiler, it wasn't. If you're wealthy, you have a patron. If you're poor, you have excuses, and Rome doesn't take kindly to excuses. Crimes range from theft to sacrilege to simply offending the wrong patrician's ego. Punishments, fines, beatings, exile, or, in special cases, execution with flair, the kind where people bring snacks and cheer. You remember your neighbour, the one who insulted a tax collector last spring. He vanished for questioning and came back quieter, limping, and very interested in local politics. Now he sweeps the alley with newfound patriotism. Justice is a game, and unless you're a senator, you're the dice, but it's not all grim. There are courts where people argue over sheep ownership, boundary stones, or who stole whose cooking pot. The arguments are loud, theatrical, and weirdly entertaining. You once watched a man present a broken pot as evidence, waving it like it had feelings. The judge ruled in his favour because he seemed more passionate. That's not legal precedent, it's emotional voting. Your friend tells you about delatores, informants who earn rewards for snitching. It's a full-time hustle. You never know who's listening, so you nod a lot, smile vaguely, and keep your opinions folded in your tunic like secret parchment. Tonight's accused thief gets dragged back out of the courthouse. He's lost the case. He's gained a limp. He'll either pay a fine or dig a ditch until his debt's forgiven, or until his spirit is. You walk faster after that, because Rome doesn't offer warnings, it offers examples. And tonight, someone else was the example. Back in your alley, a neighbour mutters about a new edict banning late-night cooking fires. He rolls his eyes. Another rule for people who don't matter. You nod, then you both pretend you didn't just nod in agreement. It's safer that way. Roman law is firm, Roman law is clear, Roman law is selective. Justice doesn't wear a blindfold here, it squints at your sandals and asks who you know. And tonight you're just glad it's not squinting at you. Section 12. You're back in your narrow room, the sky outside dimming into a deep indigo wash. You should be unwinding, you should be resting. But before sleep, before any real comfort can come, there's still one more duty, one more realm to pay respect to in this ever-layered life. The gods. In Rome, faith isn't optional, it's part of the air, part of the plumbing. There's a deity for everything, from war to door hinges, from marriage to mildew. Ignore them, and you risk more than guilt. You risk bad luck with teeth, so you light your little oil lamp. Its flame sputters weakly. The smoke curls toward the ceiling like a lazy prayer. You kneel before your lararium, a tiny household shrine nestled in a nook beside your shelf of cracked bowls. Inside it sit two small statues, one for the lares, protective spirits of the home, the other, well, no one's quite sure. He's missing a head. You pray to him anyway. You mumble your thanks for surviving the day, for not being arrested, for avoiding poisonous figs. You offer a crumb of bread, a drop of wine, and a whispered wish that tomorrow be just a little bit less exhausting. Religion in Rome isn't just a Sunday affair, it's every hour, everywhere. You pass temples on the way to the market. You toss coins in fountains for fortuna. You murmur invocations before starting your work shift, your meal, your bath, yes, even your bath. Historians still debate whether Romans were deeply spiritual or just extremely superstitious. Most likely, a bit of both. You remember earlier today when your neighbour stubbed his toe and immediately shouted, "Mercury, not again," or the time the baker's oven collapsed and everyone blamed it on neglecting Vulcan, god of fire and bad tempers. Then there are the festivals. Oh, the festivals. You've lived through Saturnalia, the upside-down holiday where masters serve slaves and everyone wears funny hats. You vaguely recall the Lupercalia, where half-dressed men run through the streets smacking women with goat hides for fertility. You were smacked once, you still don't know how to feel about it. Religion here isn't solemn, it's noisy, messy, tactile. Priests parade through the streets, animals are sacrificed in public. If you're lucky, you'll get a bit of the roasted meat afterward. If not, just the smell and the guilt. There's a temple nearby dedicated to Minerva. You've never been inside, but you light a candle on her steps every so often, just in case she's keeping score. And then, of course, there's the imperial cult, worshipping the emperor, Augustus, Tiberius. Caligula, well, no one says his name too loudly. You bow your head during official ceremonies, you mouth the words. You don't ask questions. Romans believe in fate, fatum, but they also believe in pietas, the duty to gods, family and state. Break one and the whole system shudders. Like a table missing a leg, wobbling under the weight of expectations and leftover barley porridge. You blow out your lamp, the room darkens. The smell of oil and old prayers lingers. You lie back on your straw mattress. It crackles beneath you like tired parchment. Your stomach growls, your head aches, but you're alive. You did your part. You honoured the gods, or at least the ones you remembered. Tomorrow, you'll offer a sprig of rosemary to Vesta. You'll nod to Janus when you walk through the doorway. You'll curse Mars if you drop something heavy. Because in Rome, the divine isn't far away. It's in the smoke, the cracks, the dust, the luck. You close your eyes. Not quite praying, not quite sleeping, just hoping the gods are tired too. Section 13. Sleep feels close, but the air is still warm, thick with the scent of soot, sweat, and overcooked lentils. You turn onto your side. Your straw mattress rustles like dry grass in a windless field. Your body pleads for rest, but then you remember something. You haven't bathed in 2 days, which brings us to Rome's crown jewel of daily routine, the bathhouse. You sit up, groaning. The public baths are still open. They usually are until sundown, sometimes longer. A bath isn't just for hygiene. It's where deals are made, gossip spreads, and friendships are forged between sudsy shoulders. You grab a towel, or something you call a towel, a worn square of cloth with ambitions. You shuffle through the streets, passing torches that flicker along cracked walls and uneven cobblestones. The thermae comes into view, grand, busy, and humming with human noise. Even this late, the entrance bustles, men in tunics, slaves carrying oil flasks, old men with more opinions than teeth. Inside, it's loud and echoey. The walls are painted with fading frescoes of sea nymphs and dolphins, all of them judging your posture. The air is hot, wet and full of voices, laughter, grunts, philosophical debates shouted over splashing. You pay the small entrance fee, a coin that still smells like the fish sauce it was stored beside. You strip in the appetitarium, the changing room, and hand your bundle of clothes to an attendant. You hope you get it back. First stop, the tepidarium, the warm room. The air here is thick. Your skin beads with sweat almost instantly. You sit on a stone bench, breathe deeply, and try not to inhale too much, stranger. Everyone's glistening. Everyone's pretending not to stare. Next, the caldarium, the hot room. Steam hits your face like a wet slap. Your lungs protest. There's a large bath sunk into the floor, the water swirling with heat and whatever memories the previous bathers left behind. You step in slowly. Too fast and your legs will seize. Too slow and someone behind you will sigh audibly. You lower yourself to your neck. It's glorious, disgusting, divine. Someone next to you mutters about politics. Another is arguing over who owes whom a chicken. You close your eyes. Not in peace, in defense. There's a man across the pool rubbing himself down with a strigil, a curved metal scraper used to remove oil and sweat. You have one too. You oil up, scrape down, and realize just how much dirt you've been carrying since Tuesday. Historians still debate how clean Roman baths actually were. They were full of people, sweat, sometimes urine, and rarely drained, but they felt clean, and sometimes feeling is enough. You emerge from the water, flushed and limp. Then it's on to the frigidarium, the cold plunge, a small square pool where the brave go to shock their hearts back into rhythm. You step in. It feels like the Tiber in winter, like betrayal. Your breath leaves your body like a startled bird. You dunk once, just once. Because pride. Out again, you drip your way toward the exit, grabbing a cloth and praying your clothes haven't been redistributed. They haven't. Miracle. You walk home damp, loose-limbed, and faintly smelling of rosemary, sulfur, and civic ambition. Your skin tingles, your ears are ringing with conversations you never wanted to overhear. The bathhouse is Rome's answer to stress. It doesn't cure anything, but it makes you forget long enough to survive until tomorrow, and that's enough. For now, Section 14, you're finally back in your insula, bath warm, half damp, and slightly more slippery than when you left. You climb the crooked stairs carefully, avoiding the cracked step that ate your sandal last week. Your muscles ache, but in a good way now, like they've been steamed and resigned to their fate. You step inside. It's darker than before. Someone borrowed your oil lamp, again. Then you smell it, smoke, not the gentle waft of hearth fire.